Good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. We'll be getting started in just a minute, and we'll get people situated. You should be seeing on your screen the dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. You can also navigate there from the virtualpbx.com website, mouse over support, click on the dash login link, and it will take you here. I do recommend bookmarking this page so that way you can get here whenever you need to. Also, just want to point out that on our YouTube channel, we have a couple other videos that you may be interested in, including the advanced reporting demo, as well as the ACDQ's Pro demo, excuse me. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So to get logged in, we need your username, which is your email address. We need your password, which should have been emailed to you, and then the account name, which is typically your company name. If you don't have that information, like your password, for example, down here towards the bottom right, just above the sign-in bar, click on the Forgot Your Info link. Still need your email address, number one. Now, the next two fields, we need one of the two, right? So either the account name or a company phone number, right? So one of the phone numbers on the account. Then you click on the Reset Password bar here. You'll get an email. It'll have a link to get you logged in. And basically the point of that is to get logged in to change your password. Once you change your password, this system will automatically log you back out. So that way you can come back here and click on the Remember Me, so you don't have to remember that password, and then get signed in, and now you can work normally. This is a test account that I have been using for years, so it's going to come up right to the dashboard. For you, the first time you come in, right, first time you log in, you're actually going to be taken to your account page. You can always get back to this page by clicking your name up here at the top. It will flip over, and now this is where I would change my own email address, for example, or my own password. The Dash Wizard will be a set of pop-ups showing you these features and what they can do, like where you can change your time zone, etc. Because I'm an admin, I also have these account settings over here on the left. And the main thing that's changed often is the time zone, right? Default put me in Los Angeles, which is fine because I'm in the Pacific time zone, but not everyone is, so you can adjust that to where you need to be. If for some reason you change the account name, you do want to let our billing team know. There's some other things they'll need to set up on their end to make sure everything links up properly. Now, as I mentioned, this is a test account, so I don't have everything that you have. On your accounts, below where it says user here, there'll be another set of billing related information. Things like your service plan, your invoices. It's also where you would update your credit card. There's also billing contact information, right? So the official owner of the account. Now, when you're done here, go ahead and click on the close over here at the top right, and you'll be back on your dashboard. Again, during this first login, pop-ups will come up letting you know what certain things are. So at the top again, you can always click your name, get back to the account screen. Many of you will have a Dnd toggle for Do Not Disturb. If you see white, right, if that toggle is white, that means it's on or active. And the reason I don't have it is because my user is also in an ACDQ, and ACDQs and the Do Not Disturb toggle were causing problems. So if you're in a queue, you will not have the Do Not Disturb toggle. Over here, we've got the little question mark icon. This allows you to open up a chat window. This will get to our support team, and they can help you with whatever feature you're working on. Learn more. This will open up a new tab, get you to the support pages. Again, there'll be feature guides with screenshots. Some of them also have videos to help you go through it. Online store, that goes to store.virtualpbx.com. This is where you can order a VoIP phone, or a router, or a headset, etc. There is an extra spot here that is for if you're making use of the web phone on your user. You'll have a link here that will open up a new tab that will take you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. The web phone allows you to use Chrome or Firefox to make and receive calls. Now that has to be on a desktop or laptop computer, right? The computer versions of those browsers. Next up, we got the hamburger or the 3 horizontal line icon. This takes you to other features of Dash. We're currently on the dashboard, which is where we'll be most of our time here. And we'll be getting to some of these other ones, including queues, which I've already mentioned. And then lastly, the logout icon. All right. On the left, we have other features of Dash, which again, we'll be going through within the dashboard. Then we've got our total users. These are the people who are making and receiving calls on my account. If I'm on a per user plan, each user I add, right, increases my bill. Each user I remove decreases my bill. Then we got total devices. I have 29 devices, and then a breakdown. All right, first up, cell phone. Pretty self-explanatory. Then we got the web phone, which I mentioned previously, and that a web phone is a kind of VoIP phone. And so VoIP stands for Voice over Internet Protocol, in case you didn't already know that. Right? The web phone, making use of a web browser to make and receive calls. Right? Soft phone, software application, uses your internet connection to make and receive calls. So another kind of VoIP phone. Now, this can include, right, I have 7 here. That can include the VirtualPBX soft phone app. This can include someone else's app. Right? So if you went to Counterpath, got one of their soft phone apps, it would count as a soft phone on your system here. The SIP phone here, I've got 4, it looks like. Those are physical VoIP devices, right? A Yealink phone or a Polycom phone, Cisco phone, right? It's a piece of physical hardware sitting probably on someone's desk. You can pick it up, make and receive calls. It's still using your internet connection, so it's still a VoIP device. And then we have a single landline, right? Old school, plug in the wall. Notice down here, I have unregistered devices. The system is telling me I have 14 unregistered devices. That means I have 14 VoIP devices that the system is saying are not connected to us. Right? So we can't send a call to those devices. And most likely those devices can't make calls out. Total numbers, I have 31. Your account will include anywhere from, I believe it's like 2 to 15 phone numbers as part of your plan price, typically speaking. If you go over that allotment, you will be subject to an overcharge on a per number basis, right? So if I am 16 numbers over my allotment, then I'm getting charged, for 16 numbers extra every month. The amount charged will vary a bit depending on the plan and how old your plan is. So you'd want to double check with our account services team so they can verify what your overage rate is and how many phone numbers you actually have as part of your allotment. All right, then we've got assigned numbers and spare numbers. Assigned number means you're using it, right? Someone can dial that number and expect to talk to a person, leave a voicemail, get to a conference, or send a fax. Right? Spare number on your account, so counts as your part of your allotment, but you're not currently using it, right? So you had a promotion running for Labor Day, that ended obviously. You're like, okay, we don't need calls coming in on that number anymore. You just unassign it, and now that number rings busy. Right? Or like you had a bunch of numbers in sequence, you just haven't gotten to the last few numbers in the sequence. All right, then we've got USDID and US toll-free. US toll-free is actually US Canada toll-free, right? 800 number, 888, all the way down to 833 currently. Whereas USDID, it's a US local phone number, right? So you can have a phone number in San Diego, California, another number in Austin, Texas, a third number, Rochester, New York, what have you. If you're interested in having an international number, so like a number in Canada, or a number in London, UK, that you're going to need to email our porting team. That's PORTING at virtualpbx.com. They will need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a number in. If there's additional requirements, they will let you know. It's going to vary from country to country. Down here at the bottom, we've got conference bridges. This means I have enabled conferencing on 8 or 7 of my users. Now, I'm not able to enable that feature on users unless I already have a conference bridge number. Over here to the right, these 4 numbers under main number, right? These are my main numbers. These numbers all behave the same way. They all go to the same location. They all have the same main greeting, right? They're all going to have that same kind of functionality. Conference room number or conference number, you can have multiple conference numbers if you want, but this is the phone number that everybody dials to get to the conference rooms. Whether they're your staff members, clients, or vendors, they're all calling this number. The fax box number enables faxing on the account. This is your inbound fax number, right? For example, you can only have the one main fax box number. The company directory, this is a download link or download a text file to your computer. It just has your users and their extension numbers. The soft phone directory, this is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone application. You would download this file, upload it to that application, and then you can see the status of everyone else's who's making use of the soft phone, right? So I could look at my soft phone and see, oh, my boss is on a call, so I can't go and get, I should not call him at this point because I'll just get the voicemail. I'll have to wait until he's available so I can talk to him about a particular customer issue. Whereas my coworker Mike can see, oh, I'm not on a call, so he calls me, and then he and I can talk about a new feature that's coming that he wants to make sure I'm aware of. All right, then we got the store discount code. So just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount in our online store, right? That's store.virtualpbx.com. And then lastly, we have the account realm. The account realm is used in a couple things. For programming a third-party application, like a third-party soft phone, right? So from Counterpath or any other third-party device. It's one of the 3 key pieces of information we provide to program or provision those devices. The other thing it's used for is for outbound faxing. Currently on Dash, to send a fax out, it's via email. Right? So you create an email. In the to field of the email, you put the plus sign, the number 1, then the area code and phone number you're faxing to, @ symbol, and then your account realm. And then you attach a PDF or TIFF and send the file. All right, up here at the top, you got the caller ID. It's actually the company caller ID. So this is going to be your default phone number. This pull down for you will show you all your main numbers that you've assigned as a main number. Right? Unfortunately, it's not working here, so I can only select this 1408 phone number. This becomes the default number for a lot of features, right? Including that it's a default number from a VoIP phone when they pick up and make an outbound call. This is the default phone number that shows up as the outbound caller ID, for example. Then we've got the company caller ID name, CNAME. You have up to 15 characters, including spaces and special characters. This, once you click Save Changes down here at the bottom, we transmit this to all the other carriers who support CNAME. It's important to know, not every carrier that a call routes through supports CNAME, and if that happens to happen to one of your calls, your CNAME information does not get transmitted to the destination. Right? So we can only provide that information out. It's up to the other carriers to let it get transmitted to the destination device. And we can't make another carrier put this information in if they don't want to, whether it's because they don't support CNAME or it's because it's a paid service on their end, like for a cell phone carrier or some cell phone carriers. All right. Next up, we have company emergency information, or E911. You want to put a valid physical address here. This address is then associated with this phone number. So if a VoIP phone user picks up a phone, dials 911, this is the default address that will be sent out to emergency services. Each of your phone numbers can have an individual or their own E911 address information, and then you can select from your VoIP phones which ones of those they want to use. Right, so that way your remote employees can have the correct address, hopefully, associated with them if they pick up their VoIP phones. Any changes here, you just click on Save Changes here at the bottom. Oh, one thing I should note, you do want a company caller ID number set so you can make an outbound call with your VoIP phone. If you left this at none, you will not be able to make an outbound call from your VoIP devices. And basically, this says you have to have caller ID sent out to be able to make an outbound call. All right, hold music. So on Dash, you can upload your own hold music. Hold music on Dash, though, is defined as after a call has reached a user and that user has pressed hold on their VoIP device. That is when hold music will play. You would click upload here and find the file on your computer. You can upload .ogg, .mp3, or .wav. You want to keep it under 1 megabyte in size. You want to record it in mono. That will give you more length in terms of playback time. Then you would click this blue and white up arrow icon. And once it finishes uploading, you would then click on Save Changes. All right, hours of operation. This is actually part of main number. So let's go over just to main number. The main number page can take a little bit to load. So up the top, we have main company numbers. Those 4 numbers we saw on the dashboard page. Now, if you don't want to use a number any longer, you can click this big red unassign button, and that removes it from being a main number. It's still on your account, right? It just becomes a spare number at this point. Now, any place you can assign a number, you'll have the options to add from spares. Right now, I have my available numbers I can add, as well as you can buy new numbers. All right, then you have the options for local and toll-free. Toll-free, pretty straightforward. You select the toll-free prefix you want to use, click on search, and what's available will show up, and you would click add. And you can add multiple numbers at once if you want to. All right, got a little 1 in the cart down here, shows you the number. Little trash can icon if you decide to change your mind. Then you have to scroll down to the bottom where it says Buy Numbers. Click on Buy Numbers. It's verifying the number was still available. And then it's adding it to your account. For local numbers, slightly different in that you need to know the area code that you're looking for. Now, some things that will come up sometimes is if you search an area code, you may get this message here. Sorry, we could not find any numbers. And that is because some area codes are what's referred to as exhausted, right? The maximum number of phone numbers in a specific area code is it's under 8 million numbers. Some of those are going to be allocated to specific carriers, and we may not be able to get them all. In terms of this 310 area code, this was one of the original area codes that was created in 1947, I believe. Most of those original area codes are exhausted and have what's called an overlay, right? In some cases, right, areas were split, so they have, before, you can say a whole county was covered with one area code, and then now, say that was 20 years ago, and now counties can have multiple area codes. Or even cities. So I go back to local numbers. Let's go 408. I don't know, there might be something still. 408 is for San Jose. It's that regional area code there. Go back. And the reason I'm closing out is my streaming software doesn't like going back to searching. Now 669 is an overlay for the 408 area code. So then I can add a number. So this is still a San Jose phone number. It's just the newer area code for that region. So if the first area code you look up for in a city doesn't come up anything, double check to see if there are other area codes nearby or overlays. And then you can search those additional area codes. Now, every phone number has this little gear icon next to it. This allows you to adjust the caller ID, for example. So here, you can choose your CNAM information for this specific phone number. Right? And then here, you can choose, do you want inbound CNAM to come in through this phone number? right? If you turn it on, that means your staff members on their VoIP phones will see the inbound CNAME information. E911, again, I can set up the address for each of my phone numbers for different areas. And then Prepend is a VoIP feature. This allows you to put text in front of the caller ID. It basically shows, just additional text in front of the caller ID that shows up on the VoIP phones. Excuse me. All right, office hours strategy. So for new accounts, you start off at 24-hour open office. If you want, you can choose custom office hours. For each day of the week that you're open, you put a check mark. And then in the boxes to the right, you enter your open hours in 24-hour or military time. And it's a pull down, so you can choose what's appropriate. Towards the bottom, you have the option to put a check mark to say you're closed for lunch hours. So if your whole facility is closed for lunch, you can put a check mark here and then put your lunch hours again in that 24-hour or military time. If you make any changes, click Save Changes. Next up, we have office holidays. So here, if you're closed for holidays, put a check mark here. Then over here to the right, an option to add holiday. You've got the options here for single day, date range, and advanced. Each one creates a new row. So first you give it a name, right? President's Day. Choose the month and the date. Right? Date range, like we have down here for Christmas. Give it a name. Give it a start date and an end date. Right? So that way they knows when to restart your system. And then advanced is like here for retreat. Give it a name, choose the month. This middle one here, you have first through fifth as well as last, and then day of the week. One thing I should point out here for the date range especially, there's no year indicator, so it's best to avoid a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. You just want to do those as single days. And then any changes, you click on Save Changes. And then next up, we have the big kahuna, which is incoming call handling. This is how you determine how your main numbers are handling your phone calls. You notice I have these tabs across the top, right? So I have an open hours, I have after hours, and I have holidays. Again, how am I routing calls during these times? Now the options are the same, right? In terms of this first one here, calls go to the virtual receptionist or auto attendant. If you click on this link here for virtual receptionist, it's going to open up a new window or pop-up window technically. And then on my left, I have my main menu, right? This is what people press on their phones to navigate through my phone system, right? 1 for sales, 2 for support, that sort of thing. You towards the bottom here, click Add Route. That's how you create your routes of that 1 for sales, 2 for support, etc. Creates a new row. You have the default route, as well as 0 through 9, as well, and the star key. And then you choose where is this going, right? When they press this button, where do they end up? So if we go up here, right, Smart PBX directory, right, the user directory. You can send calls to a specific person, right, specific user. Scroll down, I can send calls to a call queue if I'm making use of queues. I can send calls to a specific device. This isn't always recommended just because if the device doesn't have voicemail associated with it, then your inbound caller can be sitting there ringing forever until they decide to hang up. Media file, again, this is a greeting file, right? So you can say like hours of operation or your directions. Once the media file stops playing, the call is ended. Let's go down here further. Groups, this goes to any of my ring groups. These are departments. Groups and queues are somewhat related. Groups, however, are part of Dash. There's no additional fee associated with them, whereas for queues there is. Advanced call flows, this is if you're making use of, say, submenuing, like I have a Spanish option, right? So press 1 for Spanish. I would send it to a second option, or that option then would play its own greeting, right, in Spanish, and then it have its own menu options. And then lastly, you have the option to send callers to a voicemail box. Over here on the right, we got greetings. And first up, we have text-to-speech. You simply type in what you want the system to say. It plays it back in a computerized or robotic voice. You have about 250 to 300 characters to work with, not words, characters. It kind of depends on how complicated it is. I've been able to get some greetings up a little up to 350, but it's going to vary. One thing to keep in mind is once you click update and then save changes, the system names the file for you, and it uses main. In this case, it'd be main open hours menu TTS. Now, if I come in tomorrow and I just make a small edit or I change it out completely, it's going to keep it with the same name, right? Main open hours menu TTS. My advice is anytime you make a text-to-speech greeting, after you click that update, save, and save changes, you want to go to your greetings tab, which we'll be getting to shortly, and rename that file to something you will recognize. Right, so that way if you need to flip back to it, it's easy to find. Next up, we got upload your own file. Right, find the file on your computer, .wav, .mp3, .ogg, recorded in mono, under 1 megabyte. Click update, save, and then save changes. Choose from your existing recordings. This is a pull down that shows all of your media files, whether that's a hold music file, a voicemail greeting file, or another main greeting. That's why you want to name those main menu open hours TTS as something you'll recognize, because otherwise you have like 10 of them and you're like, I don't know which one is which. Record it over the phone. All right, so first up here it says pick up a phone registered in this account. What that means is pick up a VoIP phone on the account. If you don't want to do that, let's say it's like not convenient for you, or you've got that friend who's got that great radio voice, go down under settings, and where it says allow outside recording, make sure this is turned on. What that does, it allows you to call in with a cell phone or a landline, and then record your main greeting over the phone. Now, you then dial your main office number, right? So one of your main numbers. If the account is brand new, right, so you haven't set up any greetings, that first time you call in, it will tell you no greeting has been set up for this menu, and then prompt you to enter a PIN number, right there. All right, back the PIN number is right here. Now, this PIN number is specific to this time of day, right? So it only works during my open hours, right? So if I call in, at 8 p.m. to try to change my main greeting, this PIN number will not work, right? Because I have my office hours set to 5. But it will then, so if I called in during my office hours, then, after I enter the PIN number, it will then walk me through the steps to record a new greeting. If you have a greeting already in place, right? Let's say your company's been using your VirtualPBX account with us for, say, a couple of years, and your boss says, hey, you're in charge of the phone system now, and we need a new main greeting. So you write up a script, you're going to call in, you enter in this PIN number, right? And you already have a greeting that plays, right? We call it, we'll call it summer greeting. So now when you call in and you record a new greeting, you overwrite the content of that file, right? So summer greeting, the file name will stay the same, but the content will change. It's just something to be aware of. So if it's a greeting pretty sure you're going to reuse, you want to swap out of it first before you record it over the phone. Otherwise, just remember to change the name so it's something more recognizable. All right, professional recording services. When you click order down here, this will take you to another website hosted by Snap Recordings. They have like 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from, various versions of English, French, and Spanish. They handle their own billing. They have different bundles available. They deliver via email, and then you would just simply upload your own file. All right, next up we're on settings. So first up, we got number of retries on missed dial. This is basically how many times can your inbound caller make a mistake. Right. Minimum is 1, I believe. But basically what it is, caller comes in, right? They hear your main greeting, and let's say they press 5, which is not a valid option, right? Well, they get one more try, right? So the system will say that's an invalid entry. It will play the greeting again. They have one more chance. They hit 7 because, child screaming in the background for whatever reason. Now it says, it's like we did not recognize your entry. And in this case, I have a default route. So then the system will send it to my default route. So that sends the caller to the directory. If I get rid of the default route, click the little X there. Now, after that second try, right, the one retry, the system will end the call. And the reason you don't want the default route, or you may not want a default route, is that would prevent a robodialer from getting to a voicemail or a person. All right, dialing timeout. This is how much time the system listens for an additional tone after it hears one. Right. So that inbound caller, they pressed 5. The system waited to a count of 10 and said, "Oh, that's an invalid entry." I usually recommend taking this down to like 3-ish, give or take, because hopefully people know the extension numbers they're going to be hitting, or they're just hitting one button. Allow outside recording, we already covered, but basically this, if you turn this on, you're allowing cell phone and landline users to be able to call in to record the main greeting over the phone. They still need the PIN number. Allow dialing extensions. If this is off, then when your inbound caller comes here, they can only press these menu options. Right? If they know the extension number, it doesn't do them any good. Right? Whereas when you turn it on, they can enter an extension number at any time. And then we have the suppress playing of invalid entry. Typically this is off, right? So what that means is when it's off, call comes in and they press 5, they get that we don't recognize this entry, or actually it says invalid entry, he plays the greeting. I turn this on, that means if they press 5, the system isn't going to tell them anything, but the greeting will play again. If you make any changes to the main menu, right, the greetings or the settings, you need to click Save here. And then when you're back on the incoming call handling page, you want to click Save Changes. And now all your changes have taken effect. Oops. All right. Next option. Call comes in, I'm offering it to Aaron, and if he doesn't pick up, it's going to the virtual receptionist. This is your live operator answer, right? You're giving a staff member, or since this is the pull down, you can go down to say like groups or queues, giving multiple staff members an opportunity to answer the call first. Whoops, sorry. And if they're not able to, then it would go to the virtual receptionist. Now you can choose devices. One thing to keep in mind, whoever we're sending the call to, whether it's a user, a group, a queue, a device, a media file, etc., it's only offering it for 20 seconds. Right, there's the media files, and then groups and advanced call flows. After that 20 seconds, it's going to go to the virtual receptionist. Now, we're still under open hours, so this virtual receptionist is the one we were just looking at. Now, For instance, let's say I want this set up for during my lunch, and then, or my after hours, excuse me. So I can send it to a particular ring group, and then if I click on this virtual receptionist, it's a different virtual receptionist because it's my after hours, right? So yeah, we're going to slightly different groups or people, and we'll lock to the directory. Here, that makes it clear. Right, it would have its different greeting because it's after hours, and I have different settings. And then I click on Save Changes. Third option here, right? You have the same options, and it's going to offer it for 20 seconds, except there's one additional one option or one new option. Right, so you can send it to users, devices, a media file, a group, a queue, etc. And then down here at the bottom, you have the option to skip the voicemail. Now, this is how under holidays, for small, like 1 or 2 man business kind of thing, I tend to see something like this where calls come in, goes script to voicemail, and then goes to a voicemail box, right, for the holiday season. This one here, this goes to your advanced call flows. So this could be for DISA, direct inward system access, which we'll be getting to much later. And then, or to a secondary attendant, which we're about to get to. Right, main conference number. You can have multiple conference numbers, right? So I have the option to add from spare or buy new. You do need to have one if you want to make use of conferencing, right? If you don't assign a number. You don't have to worry about it. Custom greeting, this allows you to create a text-to-speech greeting. And again, 250 to 300 character range. And then you would click save. Even if you don't have this enabled, right? The system will tell, call when an inbound caller comes into your conference room number, it says, welcome to the conference. Please enter the conference room number, and then prompt them for the PIN. Main fax box. So you can have the one fax box number. So if I didn't have one here, right, yeah, I would have from, add from spare or buy new. And then you have the option here to edit the fax box. Now on this account, unfortunately, the fax box is broken. On your accounts, when you click the edit the fax box link here, it's going to open up a box with 2 fields. The first field is for the inbound notification. You basically put an email address here, and whenever an inbound fax comes into your account, you get an email to that email address saying, hey, a fax came in from this number to this number at this date, this time. Here's an attachment in a PDF format. One thing to keep in mind, if someone dials your fax box number, right, here's this fax tones and hangs up, that inbound email notification will get an email saying there was a failed inbound fax attempt. Now the other field that shows up under this edit fax box is the outbound permissions. You can put an email address here, or you can, if you own your own company domain, right, for your email, so everyone has, at abccleaners.com, you can put that domain in that second field. Every one of your staff members can then fax out. They don't have to be a user on your Dash account. They just need the proper format, that +1 area code phone number, @ your account from. Attach a PDF or TIFF. All right, auto attendance. This is a plan-specific feature, meaning it's available on some plans, but not all plans. If this ends up being something you're interested in, you are going to want to talk to our account services team, and they can then guide you to the correct plan. What this is for? Sorry about that. I was getting a different notification. The other reason you would have multiple attendants is if you want to do submenuing, which I mentioned before, right? So one for English, two for Spanish. And then those additional menus have their own greeting and their own menu options. So adding an attendant up here at the top, you click Add Attendant. You give it a name, and then you give it an extension number. You click on Create Attendant. Once you've created an attendant, you can click on its name. And then here you have the option to be available in main menu, or if you just click on it, right? So now I can say it's available in main menu. The default is to be unavailable in main menu. So when it's unavailable in main menu, that means it's a standalone attendant, right? It has its own number, has its own greeting, right? Available in main menu means it most likely does not have its own phone number, but it's an option that shows up under your virtual receptionist or any of these other attendants. Right. Any changes, click on Save Changes. Right. That means attendants can have their own phone numbers. Right, so you either add from spare or buy new. Then they have the extension number box here. So the extension number for the attendants, typically that's designed for your staff members, right? They can actually transfer calls from one business to another by knowing the extension number. Most likely your customers won't know that. But you can always add additional extension numbers or change the extension numbers by adding a new one and unassigning the existing one. And then we got the little wrench icon here under Settings. Take a little bit to load. And then you see here, I've got open hours, I have after hours, and I have holidays, right? These tabs, these will match what you already set up under the main number. But in terms of the routing options, you only have the option to send it to the virtual receptionist. And again, each of these will have their own virtual receptionist, right? So their own main greeting, their own menu options, right? And the settings would be customized to that as well. But any changes, save, and then save changes here. You can have, by default, you can have up to 10 attendants on top of your virtual receptionist. But again, you wouldn't want to talk to our account services team if you don't see an attendance option right here. Next up, we have devices. This will show all your devices on your account. Green means it's registered, meaning we can send calls to it. Red, not registered, so we can't send calls to it. And black means you've turned it off. Up here at the top is where you add devices. And our first option here is SIP phone. Right? That's that physical VoIP phone hardware. So when you click on SIP devices, you have these choices of manufacturers, and you're looking for your model that corresponds to that manufacturer. So we'll go to Cisco. Here, you give it a name, right? Bob's phone, or front desk, what have you. And then you need the MAC address. MAC address is unique to each device, usually a sticker on the back of the phone. If the phone's plugged in under menu status, typically there'll be an entry for MAC, and you would enter that information here, and then you would click on Create Device. Once a device is created, you can add it to a user. In terms of the dash here, you're done. However, for the phone, you're not. You're going to need to access that phone's IP address and get into the phone's web user interface, web UI. And then you need to add a URL. Basically, you're telling the phone, hey, go to this web address, get your config file. Right? For the specifics for your phone manufacturer, you want to go back to VirtualPBX.com, go to the support, right? Click on support. On the right, about a third of the way down, under VoIP phones, you're looking for the document called Auto Provisioning Phones. It's going to have screenshots for each of the phone manufacturers, and the syntax for the URL, plus probably a couple settings just to verify that they match. When you click Save and then tell it to auto provision, then the phone will reboot a couple times. After it's done rebooting, it will show up as a green device. All right, next up, we got cell phone. Cell phone and landline are basically the same and pretty easy. You give it a name, and then you put +1 area code and phone number right here in the number field, and then you click on Create Device.